The evening of the 23rd of June, St. John's Eve, is the eve of celebration before the feast day of St. John the Baptist. The Gospel of Luke states that John was born about 6 months before Jesus. Therefore, the feast of John the Baptist was fixed on the 24th of June, 6 months before Christmas Eve. This feast day is one of the very few saints' days which commemorates the anniversary of the birth, rather than the death, of the saint being honored. The feast of St. John closely coincides with the June solstice, also referred to as Midsummer in the Northern Hemisphere. The Christian holy day is fixed at the 24th of June, but in most countries festivities are mostly held the night before on St. John's Eve. Symbolic elements. Fire is the most typical element associated with the St. John's Eve celebration. In many countries, such as Croatia, bonfires are lit on the evening of the 23rd of June for people to jump over. In Croatia, the feast is called Ivanja. It is celebrated on June 23rd, mostly in rural areas. Festivals celebrating Ivanja are held across the country. According to the tradition, bonfires are built on the shores of lakes, near rivers or on the beaches for the young people to jump over the flames. The Danes often meet with family and friends to have dinner together. If the weather is good, they then proceed to a local bonfire venue. Here the bonfire with the effigy over which on top is lit around 10 p.m. Beforehand, a bonfire speech is often made, at large events normally by a well-known person. According to popular belief, St. John's Eve was charged with a special power where evil forces were also at work. People believed that the witches flew past on the broomsticks on the way to the Brocken. To keep the evil forces away, the bonfires were usually lit on high ground. Placing a witch made of old clothes stuffed with hay on the bonfire is a tradition which did not become common until the 20th century. In some rural parts of Ireland, particularly in the northwest, bonfire night is held on St. John's Eve, when bonfires are lit on hilltops. Many towns and cities have midsummer carnivals, with fairs, concerts and fireworks, around the same time. In County Cork in southwest Ireland, the night is commonly referred to as Bonfire Night and is among the busiest nights of the year for the fire services. Medicinal plants. Traditionally, women collect several species of plants on St. John's Eve. These vary from area to area, but mostly include fennel, rue, rosemary, lemon verbena, mallows, laburnum, foxgloves, and elderflowers. On the feast of St. John, it is customary to gather the perennial herb St. John's wort. It's long been seen as a means to keep evil away, and since medieval times, the herb has been hung over doors, windows and icons to keep witches and evil spirits away. It is also used medicinally, and was used thus by the Knights Hospitallers. In some areas, they are dipped in a vessel with water and left outside exposed to the dew of night until the following morning, when people use the resulting flower water to wash the faces. Jarrow has been used since ancient times for healing wounds, and its essential oil has anti-inflammatory properties. Jarrow was also used as a ward against evil, and traditionally it was burned on the eve of St. John's Day. Bracken is sometimes called brake, a female fern. The minute spores of this fern were reputed to confer invisibility on the possessor if gathered at the only time when they were said to be visible, i.e. on St. John's Eve, at the precise moment at which the saint was born. In Denmark, the celebration is called Sankthans or Sankthansaften. It is the day where the medieval wise men and women would gather special herbs that they needed for the rest of the year to cure people. Night on Bald Mountain. Modest Mussorgsky's composition Night on Bald Mountain was originally titled St. John's Night on the Bare Mountain. The first version appeared in 1867 and was revised around 1872 and again in 1880. In this last version he added a hauntingly beautiful quiet ending, in which a church bell announces the dawn, and daybreak chases away the evil spirit. Night on Bald Mountain has remained an audience favorite ever since its appearance in Walt Disney's landmark movie, Fantasia. Food. Customarily, in Connaught Island, a special dish called goody was made. This was white shop bread, which had been soaked in hot milk and flavored with sugar and spices. It was usually made in a large pot that was either placed on the communal bonfire or heated on a smaller fire close by. Revelers brought their own spoons and bowls if they wanted to share in the goody. Traditional celebrations. England. The Feast of St. John the Baptist is one of the quarter days in England. The town of Midsummer, Norton, in Somerset, England, is sometimes said to be named after the feast day of St. John the Baptist, which is also the parish church. Winkland, a word of Old England, cooked a special soup for the occasion in the manner of his ancestors. It was the custom in Yorkshire for every family who had come to live in the parish within the last year to put a table outside the house on St. John's Eve and place on it bread and cheese and beer and offer this to anyone who passed by. Any of the parish might help themselves, and if the fortunes of the family ran to it, would be invited indoors for a further supper and a festive evening. By this means the newcomers to the parish made many acquaintances and friends, and were helped to see themselves as having a definite place in the local community. Estonia. Estonians celebrate Jaaniota on the eve of the summer solstice with bonfires. On the islands of Saaremaa and Hiiumaa, old fishing boats may be burnt in the large fires set ablaze. On Jaaniota, Estonians all around the country will gather with their families, or at larger events to celebrate this important day with singing and dancing, as Estonians have done for centuries. The celebrations that accompany Jaaniota carry on usually through the night. They are the largest and most important of the year, and the traditions are almost identical to Finland and similar to neighbors Latvia and Sweden. France. In France, the Fête de la Saint Jean, traditionally celebrated with bonfires that are reminiscent of Midsummer's pagan rituals, is a Catholic festivity in celebration of St. John the Baptist. It takes place on June 24, on Midsummer Day. In certain French towns, a tall bonfire is built by the inhabitants in order to be lit on St. John's Day. In the Vosges region and in the southern part of Meurthe-et-Moselle, this huge bonfire is named Chavand. Canada. In Quebec, Canada, the celebration of St. John's Day was brought to New France by the first French colonists. Great fires were lit at night. According to the Jesuit Relations, the first celebrations of in New France took place around 1638 on the banks of the St. Lawrence River on the evening of June 23, 1636, with a bonfire and 5 cannon shots. In 1908, Pope Pius X designated John the Baptist as the patron saint of the French Canadians. Hungary. On June 21, Hungarians celebrate St. Ivan's Night. The whole month of June was once called Month of St. Ivan until the 19th century. Setting fires is a folklore tradition this night. Girls jumped over it, while boys watched the spectacular. Most significant among the customs of the summer is lighting the fire of Midsummer Night on the day of St. John, when the sun follows the highest course, when the nights are the shortest and the days the longest. The practice of venerating St. John the Baptist developed in the Catholic Church during the 5th century, and at this time they put his name and day on June 24. In the Middle Ages it was primarily an ecclesiastical festivity, but from the 16th century on the sources recall it as a folk custom. The most important episode of the custom is the lighting of the fire. Italy. The feast of St. John the Baptist has been celebrated in Florence from medieval times, and certainly in the Renaissance, with festivals sometimes lasting 3 days from 21 to the 24th of June. Such celebrations are held nowadays in Cesena from 21 to 24 June, also with a special street market. St. John the Baptist is the patron saint of Genoa, Florence and Turin, where a fireworks display takes place during the celebration on the river. In Turin, St. John's cult is also diffused since medieval times, when the city stops to work for 2 days and people from the surroundings comes to dance around the bonfire in the central square. In Genoa and coastal Liguria, it's traditional to lit bonfires on the beaches on St. John's Eve to remember the fires lit to celebrate the arrival of St. John's relics to Genoa in 1098. Since 1391, on the 24th, a great procession across Genoa carried the relics to the harbour, where the archbishop blessed the city, the sea and those who works on it. In Jersey, most of the former midsummer customs are largely ignored nowadays. The custom known as Les Contes de la Saint Jean was observed as late as the 1970s. Horns or conch shells were blown, ringing the baton at midsummer to frighten away evil spirits. Survived as a custom on some farms until the 1940s and has been revived as a folk performance in the 21st century. Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. In Poland, the festival is known as Sobotki. Traditional folk rituals include groups of young men and women singing ritual songs to each other. The young women may wear crowns fashioned from wild flowers, which are later thrown into a nearby pond or lake. The young men may then swim out to claim one of the crowns. Bonfires are also part of the proceedings. Portugal, there are St. John's street parties in many cities, towns and villages, mainly between the evening on the 23rd and the actual St. John's Day on the 24th of June. St. John's Night in Porto is considered by several guides as one of the best parties in the world. The actual Midsummer St. John's Day is celebrated traditionally more in Porto and Braga, Sweden. This holiday is normally referred to as Midsummer's Eve in Sweden. Originally a fertility festival celebrating the beginning of the summer, the holiday begins with the rising of the Midsummer's Eve pole, essentially a phallic symbol. The pole is a 8 meters high wooden pole covered in flowers. Everybody dances around the pole and sings songs. Brazil, Puerto Rico. On the island of Puerto Rico, which had been named San Juan Bautista after the saint by Christopher Columbus, a night-long celebration, called La Noche de San Juan, is held. After sunset, people travel to a beach or any accessible body of water and, at midnight, fall backwards into it 3, 7 or 12 times. This is done to cleanse the body from bad luck and give good luck for the following year. Scandinavia. In some of the Scandinavian countries, in which the evening is called Sankt Hans Jansok, short for St. Johannes or St. John's Wake, the tradition is to gather around a large fire. In Denmark, an effigy of a witch is included. The witches, represented by a doll, are often made by the children, wearing old clothes and having an evil look. This evening is a large celebration, often enjoyed together with drinking, dancing and festiveness for the whole town. In Sweden, the celebration is called Midsummer and takes place on a Friday close to the actual date. Swedish historian Olaus Magnus in 1555 recorded this traditional outdoor celebration, including numerous bonfires, dancing and singing of traditional songs. Shetland Isles. The Johnsmas Foy festivities on the Shetland Isles, where the people are still proud of the Nordic roots, also take place in the week building up to the 23-24 June. These may also have their origins in the Scandinavian St. John's Eve festivities. Spain. The traditional midsummer party in Spain is the celebration in honor of San Juan and takes place on the evening of June 23rd. Bonfires are lit and a set of firework displays usually takes place. On the Mediterranean coast, especially in Catalonia and Valencian community, special foods, such as coca de Sant Joan, are also served on this occasion. One of the centers of the festival is in Ciutadella, Menorca, but many different cities and towns have their own unique traditions associated with the festival. Midsummer tradition is also especially strong in northern areas of the country, such as Galicia. Bonfires are also used in the Basque Country to celebrate San Juan Iguna, which marks the Basque summer solstice. In some towns the celebration is supplemented with more festivities and dances. In Castile and Leon it is highlighted the firewalking festival of San Pedro Manri, where barefoot men cross the live coals of a prepared bonfire. United States. Historically, this date has been venerated in the practice of Louisiana voodoo. The famous voodoo priestess Marie Laveau was said to have held ceremonies on the Bayou St. John in New Orleans, commemorating St. John's Eve. Many New Orleans residents still keep the tradition alive.